a photograph of our table at the Shanghai Art Book Fair on 2019. I think so. We're gonna talk about that too.
So we thought that, well, Oswaldo is from Mexico. I'm actually from Spain, but I lived a number of years in Colombia. And so the reason we met was because of Riso, but also because of trips. So we prepared kind of a presentation about the trips that we have made together and the books that we have made, well, together and separate.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, see, here we are again in an art book fair in Miami last year, I think so. And we're gonna start in Mexico. Here is Querétaro. Querétaro, it's not so little town, more to the south of Mexico. It is 3 hours from Mexico City, that is here. It is in the semi-desert of the country. And we're gonna talk about Gold Rain. So I started Gold Rain with a friend in 2015, and it is a publisher that started knowing not so much about artist books, but we dreamed with having a risograph, and we started with a black ink. And what really gave us like the power and the, I mean, like the strength to find and look for a voice in artist books was going to fairs and meet some other publishers there. So I wanted to start with this image of a fair that we organized after that in Querétaro. And this is an image of our first like scene that is called Self-Destruction, Authentic Manual, by 2 artists from Querétaro. We started making books with local artists and some artists that we came across at museums and other places at parties, and making, I don't know, scenes and books that we thought that were important, even if they were like 8-page scenes or just some simple things. We thought that it was important that they exist. And this is in Spanish, but it's like a funny but also representative image of kind of what Gold Rain is, that it is just make scenes, don't work, never work, because for us it's like we enjoy making all these publications, books, and it is something that we make with a lot of love. So it also represents us because we play a lot with language. And we started a little scene and artist books library in our studio in Querétaro with the books that we collected from different fairs and trips that we made, and exhibited them around our own books. So every time I came back from a fair, I came back with a lot of swatch books, artist books, scenes, posters, and made like a little exhibition at the place. Oh, an old photo from the, I don't know what year. And this is our machine, our first risograph that is, it has also a lot of story. It is full packed with stickers all around it. And here are some of our publications. I said that, or we describe ourselves also like publishing editorial accidents, because we not always design the book, or we design from the work of the artist or from the concept from the artist. That's where we start. And from that, we choose the paper, we choose how it is gonna look. By that time, we only had black. So it was also like a place from where we start. And from that, we play with the color of the paper, but we also use a lot of recycled papers, handmade papers, also office papers, some papers that are kind of cheap or accessible, but that are also representative of the place where we live and the papers that we have and that we use. And some were related also with the concept of the book. And a very important thing for me to say is that we have been finding our own voice going out from Querétaro, looking at the books from other bookmakers, artists, and going to fairs and having these experiences out there. Also, we have participated in some local ones that had been starting in our city. That's a lot of, well, kind of some fairs in Mexico too, but for a time there wasn't so much in Querétaro, like a local scene. So it has started from some time to now. And in this one, we had the opportunity to take the studio out to a place where an art fair was going on, and we made like an exhibition with a lot of posters on our books. Also another one for material. This was from Material Art Fair in Mexico City, I think 2019. It was the year that I met Eva in Replica. And this is Money. It is a book of mine. And in it, I collect like, I used to work with accumulation. So I collect a lot of advertisements from money lends and money scams from the streets. It's something because I travel to work and to the studio in bicycle. So I started to collect these advertisements and also some tarot ones to make this kind of books that are like some compilation of, well, a time, design, experiences, I don't know, many things from the streets of Querétaro, Mexico. And also another thing that was great for me was I bought at first a machine to print my own photographs, like scenes, but meeting in fairs some other publishers like Gato Negro from Mexico made me start to make some photo scenes and photo books again, because in the beginning I didn't have like the sensitive to print photography in risograph, like something that I really liked. But seeing the books of Gato Negro made me like have a different perspective on this one. And also we published this book that is called The Stone with Herring Publishers, that it is a poetry publisher also from Querétaro that we have collaborated a lot. This is like a book. Each page has like a word, 3 words, and it could be open at each page. I mean, like the page that you want, and it continues like the poem. So we are interested also in like in object books. And then we are going to Cali.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm gonna talk to you about a little bit about Calipso Press. We were based in Cali. We started in Cali in 2015. That's when Camilo Otero, that is the half of Calipso, and I moved from Madrid to Colombia. And before arriving to Cali, we were working with books. We were making some books, but we didn't have a Riso machine. We were more in the realms of curating. We were organizing some exhibitions about scenes and some artist books. We were collectors. That's a fact. Like we love going to art book fairs and meeting publishers. And we had this collective that Roni introduced before, Indisciplinadas, with which we would organize a lot of events and some exhibitions. When we moved to Cali, we like to say that we folded all that activity that we were doing in Madrid in a publishing house. That's because, well, because of the social context of Colombia, but also because making books sometimes is cheaper than making exhibitions, and because books do travel, and it's like cheaper to send books away than artworks and stuff. But even though we were based in Cali for a long time, and we always say that we were born in Cali as Calipso, the truth is that the seed of Calipso Press was, I think, it first started in Madrid. There we started a residency program that was kind of a peculiar residency program, and we didn't actually talk about it as a residency program, but it was more like opening our house to other artists or people that needed a place to stay in order to do some cultural project in the city. And in return, we would make a publication or an event or like a workshop or something with them. And that thing that started, in a very peculiar and domestic way in Madrid, in Cali became a proper residency program. I'm going to start showing some images. Some of them are really random, and I'm going to start talking about what was Cali and what we did there. But feel free to just ask any questions if you have any while I talk. So for those who doesn't know, Cali, it's in Colombia. Colombia, it's a very peculiar country because you don't get to have seasons. You live in a season year round, depending on the place you are. Like if you live in Bogota, you're in a perpetual autumn. If you live in Medellin, you live in a perpetual spring. But if you live in Cali, you live in a perpetual summer, and that was an awesome thing to experiment. But also, it's a very, how do you say this? Like a very invasive kind of thing to live in a really, really heavy summer, in a tropical summer. So there we say that we do things suave or suave, as we say in Spanish. And that is just, I mean, the translation for that would be soft, but it's not just soft. It's like when you do things suave, you do things with this kind of relaxedness. I don't know if that's even a word, but this kind of chill and relax. And there's always
But passionate at the same time.
Yeah, but
with intention.
But the sun is always so high that you're like, okay, let's meet when the sun goes down a little bit. You're always like kind of trying to navigate that heat, that humidity. And well, we started this project, Printing Suave, like printing at the pace that we wanted in Cali. And we decided to call it Calipso Press. Well, this is a picture of a studio. And this is Beto Galvão. He has this riso project in Brazil that is called Melimelo. And because of a lot of serendipity, we met him in Madrid. We talked to him about moving to Cali. And in this very informal conversation, he promised us that if we were ever going to go to Cali, he would go visit us and show us everything that he knew about riso printing. So I guess that he's kind of like the reason, well, not the reason why we have a riso studio, but he's like a really important person for us. Because when we moved to Cali, we just called him and told him, do you remember that we were going to come to Cali? So here we are. He came, he stayed with us. He was like the first resident, so to speak, of Calipso Press in Cali. And he was generous enough to tell us everything that he knew about riso. That was a lot. And here he is at La Linterna. La Linterna, it's a letterpress press that is still running in Colombia. They use huge machines like 1800s, from the 1800s. And we made this poster just when at the beginning of Calipso Press. Here are some of the workers from La Linterna, like showing another poster that we made. And well, I wanted to show you La Linterna because Cali is an amazing place for printmaking. Cali has like a background in printmaking and like artistic printmaking. And you still have this printing district where you can go and find amazing stuff, very old machines, like people with a lot of knowledge in printing, but it's like very accessible too. Like you can like access really old technology in a very quick way. I also wanted to tell you a story about Cali, just to make you like have kind of an idea, if you have never been there, of what Cali is. Here we have another residence. Sorry. Thank you. This is Laura and her sister. They went to spend a month with us, and in their residency, what they did is that they saw images of Cali. They went through Cali. They were visiting people, like hearing people in the street, and what they would do is that hand carve those images or sentences that they heard in little pieces, in little blocks. And then we printed that in La Linterna too. And I wanted to talk to you about this image here. I don't know if you're able to see it very well, but it's kind of like a mountain with 3 crosses. And that is a very significant image of Cali. That is it's a monument that we have in Cali. 3 crosses in a mountain. And the story says that when Cali was founded, they put 3 crosses on top of the mountain to prevent the demon, like the devil, to get into the city. But the plot twist is that they didn't know that the devil was inside. And that's the reason why they say that the devil never was able to leave the city. So the story says that the devil is around the city of Cali, and that's why Cali has a lot of relationship with evil and like with this darkness that is sometimes attributed to this tropical city. Well, just stories apart, here we are. This is 2015. We arrived in Colombia, and what we met there was a really healthy and thriving publishing scene. Here we are in Artbo. It's like the contemporary art festival in Bogota. And they have a kind of a section of Libro de Artista, that it's like a artist book section. And we were invited just fresh off the boat in Colombia to make this edition with a lot of artists. We took our machine from Cali to Bogota. That was quite a trip. And we set our machine there, editing and printing inside an edition of prints with some of the artists that were exhibiting in the fair. And I'm sorry. So we started doing workshops. We started meeting publishers. When we arrived with the riso, this riso was the only riso that was in the country, not the only riso, because, risos were meant to be used in hospitals, in schools. The military, for example, has a lot of risos, but there were no not anyone there like printing in riso with artistic purposes. So it was kind of a trip trying to teach people what the riso was, and also like how to embrace the technical difficulties and the technical peculiarities that the riso have in a country that really loves this high definition CYMK kind of shiny paper printing. It was a trip, and it was also fun to start printing with another device and yeah, trying to negotiate the outcomes and like the aesthetics with the publishing scene. We also did and we still do some exhibitions. Here is an exhibition at Nada. There is a really lovely bookstore and cultural place in Bogota. And we started making publications in collaboration with other publishing houses. For example, this one is Why I Hustle to Feed My Pimp by Brazilian designer Caco Neves. And we started this as a series that is called More is More. And it's a series that wants to confront and also start a dialogue about how design and art and architecture and like different activities get in relation with each other in Latin America. This is Trampolel, another book from the same series, this time by Brazilian architect Bruna Canepa. And it's a book that it's a book, but it's also like a portable exhibition. And it is binded in a way where you can tear the pages without damaging them. And then you can mount them like this, like they're meant to be overlapping each other. We kept doing exhibitions like this. And we kept printing with La Linterna and having like residents from other parts of the world. Like this one, there is a project that we made with Martin Laroche. It's a Chilean artist. I'm gonna tell you like briefly about this project. He found a crossword 10 years ago, and he has been trying to solve I'm so sorry. And he has been trying to solve the crossword in very different ways. And when he visited us in Cali, what he did is that he went to Lugar a Dudas. Lugar a Dudas is like the cultural center in Cali, and they have an amazing library. So he went through the books in the library and he found images or pages of books that he wanted to propose as answers for this crossword. So what he did is he went to La Linterna and he made these posters. And if you take a closer look in each poster, you would see a bigger word. For example, you can see here, you can see make, or you can see evidence of an album, or you can see West African country. And those bigger words are the hints of the crossword. And then if you take a closer look, you can see like some smaller letters. And these are the paths in order to get to those pages where you can find the answers for it. And all the images of the posters are the original clichés that the La Linterna has been storing from the 70s. And so none of the images were made to do this project. It's more that he found these images and made the posters with those original images that were used in public advertisements and some other publications by La Linterna. I'm gonna go forward because I'm talking a lot.
No, it's fine. It's fine, it's fine.
And maybe we can just talk about the time where we went to Shanghai.
Yeah, so we met in 2019 at Replica, that it is an important art book fair organized by Gato Negro in Mexico City. So it is more like a meeting, not such like a fair, but it's kind of like a fair, but it's more like a meeting of rebellious independent publishers from Mexico. So many came from other places like Oaxaca, Michoacan, or of course a lot of Mexico City. And they not only use risograph, most of them use photocopy, seal screen print, and some other techniques. So I met Eva there. We talked a little about Shanghai, and then I told her months after that I have applied, and she told me that she met these guys that are called banana fish, that have a very interesting place, like an art book store and also a press there in Shanghai. So we say, why not? And we travel there and share a table. And here we are with a fan that shared with us this photograph after the fair. It was a really great experience to get there. It was, of course, pre-COVID, so it was huge. It was like 4 or 5 galleries full of publishers, like 200 publishers, almost like 120 maybe just from China, and 80 international. There was also Ediciones Hungría, that they are from Mexico City, some others from Argentina, and I don't remember a lot, but here we are.
Yeah, and then we wanted to talk about the first book that we did together. That was kind of like the results of that experience going to Shanghai. So Oswaldo is a photographer. I don't understand myself as a photographer, but we spent some days there, and when we talked later, when we went to our houses, and I was gonna say develop our photos, but they weren't developed because they were taken with our phones. But we were like browsing our photographs, and we saw that even though we spent a lot of time together, the only photo that we made that was the same one was like one of a package of cigarettes. I don't know if
it's not there.
It's not here, but there's this very famous brand in China that is called Double Happiness, and we have photographed the same the same package package of cigarettes. So we decided to do like kind of a photo book in between those photos, and we printed that in Riso using only 3 colors. We were using fluorescent pink, yellow, and blue.
Yeah.
And well, this is a little bit of the result that we did together.
And yeah, it's like kind of playful. There is no you may not know which photograph it is, Eva's or mine's, but they just communicate in between. Also, this book, we made it when I went from Querétaro to Cali. That was that same year. And I went to make a residency there. Here is a view of Cali from San Antonio.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some photos that I took there. I really love to know. I think it's near from where I took this photo. I really love the neighborhood, the printing neighborhood. It is like very big place with a lot of machines from many techniques for printing. Also die cuts, stickers. I mean, like everything that you want to make for printing. And as a result of that visit to Cali, we made this book that is very personal to me. There are photos from my family that I took on medium format film from 5 years or something like that. And they were just in my computer, and we started to talk. This was, I think it was 2020 maybe, when I traveled there, because it was the pandemic and we started to talk a lot about photo books and making some more. And so we made the edition of the images and talk about it. And then finally, like 6 months later, we had the opportunity to printing there in the studio, like a real residency. And it was like a great experience for me because I learned from Calipso, from Camilo, and from Eva how to set the images to printing photograph on Riso. That is something very interesting because you can use a lot of colors, not just the normal CMYK. You can use sunflower instead of yellow. You can use fluorescent pink instead of red. You can
Well, I'm
use
gonna jump
a
in
lot of
here,
colors.
and like for people that are not familiarized with riso, riso it's a technique where you need to print each color at a time,
Yeah.
and it is not CYMK based. Like there's custom colors from riso, and also for some would say that it's not like the perfect printing method for photography, because some of the particularities that it has is that you like registration is not easy, let's put it that way.
Yes, nice.
So yeah, so sometimes these are images that, I mean, a lot of people print a photo in riso, but also these are images that are not very usual to see in riso, you know, because it's hard to get results like this.
Yeah, we
in
made
riso.
it with a lot of patience and a lot of love. Almost like each page after the second color was like we printed each page at a time or something like that.
Yeah, and even
Yeah,
though riso it's a very fast printing method, we were like printing one
very
at a
slow.
time and very slow just to maximize the results.
Yeah,
And then, well, here you're watching a picture of it, and it's kind of tricky because now
yeah,
you're
it's kind of
watching the
tricky.
RGB of an image that was printed using another different colors.
Yeah, for example, we have here like 3 colors on the right, and then we have 4 colors adding the black on the left in this image. That's like a comparative. But it was really it was a really cool project and very important for me. And that time we also printed this other book, Double Happiness. I was gonna say another thing, but I don't remember. It's fine.
Okay, and the next trip that we're going to talk about is Querétaro from
Yeah,
New
yeah.
York.
And then the trip that I made was Querétaro to New York, because I got this residency at the Center for Book Arts, where I part of my project was just walking on the streets for many weeks, from the mornings to the afternoon, and then go to the studio at CBA and take some classes and learn from really great teachers like Roni and others how to set up my text and how to make letterpress, how to bind, how to fold, and a lot of classes that the center gives. So I wanted to do something different from photography because the center has a great collection of fonts, metal type, but also wood type. And I made these photographs, but also starting to extract phrases and words. And the end of, or the result of this residency was this book that is called Voices and has like six color or six pages, and each of them has a different theme. The green is cash, the blue is spaces. We have unrestings, everything. handyman or services or offices and things like that. And then
And the last trip that we're going to tell you about is like the trip that we made from Cali to New York. And the last year we left Cali and we moved to New York. This had nothing to do with our artistic project. It was just more like a personal situation. And well, Camilo started working at the Center for Book Arts. He's the programs manager at the Center for Book Arts. And we moved to this city. So at first we were not sure how we were going to do with the studio, if we were going to like bring it over, or yeah, like there was a lot of uncertainty. And with time we decided to continue our project here. We got another result, and we are now based inside the Center for Book Arts, and we are operating from here. And sorry, and we are we still like print and talk with fellow publishers and artists in order to make books, but we also love our like the idea of the books make friends. And I think that we always use bookmaking as a trigger for meeting new people, or like gathering people together. We still have a residency program. And this year, Andrea Triana she arrived like 2 weeks in New York. She came from Bogota to New York. So now we are welcoming people here in the city to do a publication with us and spend time with us and do a residency. But right now we are the residents of a gallery that is called Miriam. I don't know if you know the place and you live in New York, you have to go and swing by. It's in Williamsburg. It's also a bookstore, really beautiful curated bookstore, and it's an amazing space that it's used as a gallery, but also as a project space. And they have been generous enough to invite us to be there until the end of the year. And we decided to set up a studio there. We have a little reso and we have a workspace. We are there every Wednesday from 2 to 8, welcoming anyone that wants to swing by, have a coffee with us, talk with us, always with this idea of printing Suave in our heads, like doing things in our own pace, and also trying to find this human connection between our work. And the whole project, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the project before we end the presentation. So the whole project is called A Sketch for the Future. And it's a sentence that we borrowed from Muriel Cooper, from a Muriel Cooper letter. Muriel Cooper was a designer and a teacher at the MIT. She taught a class that was called the Visual Language Workshop. And apparently it was an amazing and crazy place. Like students have carved holes through the walls in order to connect some classes to others. They had letterpress, they had photocopier machines, mimeographs. The noise was so intense there that people had to literally scream to each other in order to send messages and understand what they were doing. And so the thing got so crazy that the editor of the Plan magazine, that was the architectural magazine from the MIT, asked Muriel Cooper to write a paper about what the visual language workshop was. And instead of doing that, she wrote a letter. And she said, okay, if I were to write a paper on this, I would certainly go through these 4 points. And then she stated 4 points where she talks about printmaking and publishing and like some things that are really interesting and that they're like valid today. And then she ends the letter saying, this stands as a sketch for the future. And then there's like a 20-something page of visual essay that she made with her students that follow up that letter. So we took that sentence. We really like Muriel Cooper and what she did. She was trying to think about publishing and graphic design in a time where the new graphic digital environments were starting. So there's a lot of freedom in the experiments that she did. And we kind of wanted to pay a tribute to her, but also like kind of steal that sentence in order to create a place where anyone that wants to come wants to sketch something for the future, meaning that they can start thinking about things that they think that are important to think about today in order to inhabit the future or in order to craft the future that we want. And yeah, we're going to be there until the end of the year. You're very welcome to swing by. We also invite,
That's nice.
we also have a lot of friends and artists that are doing workshops there. And if you have never been to Miriam, you definitely have to go. And I think that was our
So-
presentation and all the tips that we wanted to talk and share with you.
Thank you. That was terrific. Let me ask a few questions that were in the chat. Somebody wants to know, Oswaldo, if the first black and white books that you did, was it because the Rizzo was only made in black and white, or was it because that's what you could afford?
Oh, no. Well, the risograph is made like for 72 colors or something like that are available, and also some custom ones. But for each color, you need like a big part of the machine it is also like $1,000 or something like that. So we could just afford the machine with the black. And also it's not so easy to get some parts of these machines into Mexico. You have to buy it from distributors or fly to US and then take it with you, or import it from Japan or things like that. So it is also not that cheap. So the easy answer is that it was what we could afford at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, I mean, black is really a great color. And also our machine, it is kind of old, but not that old, because these machines last a lot. They are like made to last. They print millions of, you can print millions of things in a machine like this. And some of the very old ones are still in use. But we use the scanner to print, so it doesn't have like a connection to a computer. So that was also a challenge, but it is a really cool thing to learn to design a book, I don't know, like in an old way. So we make all the dummy of the real book and then just scan it in the machine. So it was like a lot of freedom for me and for the artist to get like all this process of printing and making books in our hands. And just make like the line straight from the concept into the real world.
Okay.
And we could make that with just black. And after that, with some time years ago, we have afforded some other drums. That's the name for the part to print some other colors.
Okay.
I'd like to add here that when you're in Latin America and you get on board this Riso thing, in some places there are no distribution. I mean, there is, but then it is so expensive, but absurdly expensive, that you end up being a hacker and being your own technician, and you start buying like secondhand parts in China and shipping them to your place. I mean, a lot of people in the US and all over the world do this, but it's like really absurd how, I mean, in the beginning, I remember when Camilo and I started in Colombia, we had to ask our friends and family to bring the inks from Europe to to Colombia. And I mean, it's funny because now a really affordable way of printing becomes a kind of expensive way of printing. But it's also in terms of like the question of like if that was a decision that you made of just having black, I think it's really nice with the Riso because it really teaches you a lot of patience, but also you have to negotiate a lot with the machine, and sometimes less is more, you know, like you really sometimes you get into this idea of you needing to buy a lot of drums and have a lot of colors. And for example, we have a friend that is called George Vitor, and he's like this persona in the Riso world. He set up this web page that is called stencil.wiki, that it's like a page of like anyone that has ever printed with risograph had to go there and look for something. And he's always like, yeah, like he says, I don't really like printing with more than 3 colors, you know, and I'm like always trying to print just with 2 colors and trying to trick your eyes into thinking that there are more colors there. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, it gets different when you have more colors, and sometimes you like just having one. It's like when I start, because you start to get into misregistration, control of the files, things like that, and but everything in one way or another, it's really like beautiful to experience that. It's a lot of freedom to make those decisions to printing.
Somebody else asked if you only print language in Spanish, or do you ever print work in English?
That is an interesting question, because when we met some other publishers at Riso at art book fairs in Mexico, some told me that kind of the key to get into other fairs outside Mexico was to publish in English, and that was the like you were gonna sell if you have your books in English. But I personally think that I like to have the book in Spanish, like if it was taught and growth like that. But with time to time, not just like a commercial decision, I have made some in English too, but also many of our books are just visual. So they came from things, for example, the accumulation books that are just advertisements from the streets. Those are from the original ones that are in Spanish. And if I make another one, for example, here, it's gonna be in English. And if I make another one from China, I think it's gonna be in Chinese. So I think it's kind of something that has a meaning from the place where it is or where it is from. But we are starting to add some translations to some of them. And in terms of sales, we have sold, I mean, like it is kind of universal. We have sold books in Spanish in many places, but also something that is very beautiful that we had found people in other parts of the world that they are very happy to receive our books in Spanish because they are from Mexico, they are from Colombia, they are from, and they are living there. So it is something that it's cool in both ways also.
Juliana asks, can you do some mixed media or paint on the paper? I mean, can you print on top of it, or would the paper not go through?
Yeah, you can make like a lot of things to the paper. You can paint, watercolor, and then print, or print and then add another technique also.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is that the rollers get inked with other technique or things like that could happen. But if you're experimenting, it's a really cool way to do it. Yeah.
Okay, so Eva, you shared with us your and Camilo's way of making connection with artists and publishers. And so we can see how new projects would, get started. Oswaldo, I'm wondering how your books, how you met people, or did they come to you? And, what's like a common way that a project gets started? I mean, does the person come to you with an idea, or do you see an artist that you like and you think, oh, we could make a book with that person? Like, talk us through some of the scenarios.
Yeah, I think it happens in both ways. Sometimes I see on Facebook, Instagram, on an exhibition, the work of an artist that I like, and then I get closer and start a conversation about the book, if I have imagined how it's gonna be, things like that. Or the other way, the artists get near to us because they have seen like the project also on Instagram, or they met us on a fair, and they want to make a book. So it is like a very natural process. Just like if they get closer and we talk, but we have also made like a politic of being an open press. So if everyone gets to us and we can make the book with them, or want to do it as a publisher, and it is afforded to us or to the artist to make it, then we just made it. But also we could also print for the artists, and that happens also a lot because some artists are like in the run, or they have a project that they just want to do at that time, and we could just be a printer for that artist too. But if we are very in love with that project, we are gonna make the things to have it. I mean, when you see something that you want for your publisher or to publish, we're gonna see how to do it.
Okay. I think that I'm going to unmute everybody, and if anybody has questions that they'd like to ask, please do so. And now, let's see. Can I do that?
All at once?
I don't know. Carol, oh, let's see here now. No, I don't want to mute all. Caroline, can you unmute everyone?
Yep, I just did.
Okay, good. So feel free to ask questions if you have them. Oh, well, Fan asked, how many copies are in a typical run, or does it depend on the work?
Well, in my case, we're making like starting in 100 because we have seen that at first we thought they were too much, but from the beginning to now, it is not too much books. It depends on the popularity of the book, but at the end they get sold. But also depends on the work. We have printed 1,000, but it is just too much books. It was crazy, but that was like a government project that just happened, and it was like an experience also, but there were too much books. So, and I had made some editions of mine that are just 60 books. So it depends on money sometimes, on the budget that we have for a book, but we kind of start in 100.
But as a rule of thumb, something between 30 and 1,000, it's something that you might want to do it in reason. If it's less,
Yeah.
or it's more, you might go and find some other way of printing it. Like if you want to do just
Yes.
one copy, it's not going to be worth it to
Mhm.
do it in reason. I mean, depending on what you think
Yeah.
worth is, but here in Calipso, we make something between 300 and 500 per page.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And how many fairs do you generally do a year?
It has
Pre-COVID.
changed because of COVID,
Yeah.
but some of the first went virtual. So I don't know. I remember a time where it was like mostly like once a month there was
Once
a
a month.
fair.
Yeah.
Oh.
But some other years that just like maybe 3 big ones and then like some local ones. It really depends. I mean, the pandemic really
Change that.
started that for me at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do anything else besides fairs to market your work?
Well, we have a lot of books in other bookstores, like in print at Printed Matter, at like
Mhm.
some other bookstores all over the world.
Okay.
It was nice that when some fairs went virtual, we were able to ship the books, and even if the books were not sold, like they would keep them as a distributor kind of
Mhm.
thing, or they would just like retail them to some other bookstores. So we have some books all over the world like that, and we also have like some online shops.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
mostly bookstores, fairs, websites, and sometimes also exhibitions, like the one that you have now
Yeah.
in Miriam. I also have made some little exhibitions, and the books like get sold.
But the distribution is always a thing,
Yeah.
especially for people who print in riso, because you know the inks that we use in riso doesn't have any chemical fixators, so the inks virtually never dry. So it's not that the books are dirty or anything, but they're not. I mean, they're not delicate, but sometimes when they're like in a commercial store, like they get like the ink get smudged, and like depending on the design, it
Yeah.
kind of gets ruined. You can always take a rubber and erase that. But like they wear a little bit. So distribution is always a thing because you want to leave your books with people that are going to care for them. And that's for virtual anything that makes books, but especially the riso ones, you want people that are not going to just leave the books there for people to just grab
So,
them with their hands. So
yeah.
it's always a thing, like most of us just like distribute our own books, or a friend goes to a fair and you ask them to bring like 5 books from you to that fair, and that's
Yeah.
how you do stuff. Yeah.
Do you send out any like notifications on new books anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, we have a mailing list. I know you have to.
Yeah, and we mostly make Instagram posts, and in Querétaro we used to do like presentations, sometimes of each book, but some other times we just take our new titles presentations, like 5 or 6 or something like that, and we made them in museums or galleries, and we used to make a meeting of local publishers there in Querétaro, also at a museum.
So let me just ask, as a person who's not very knowledgeable about Riso, why would a person choose to print in Riso as opposed to like digital? I mean, is it cheaper for if I were to come to you with something, and I wanted to do, let's say 100 books, I mean, is it that a commercial publisher will not want to deal with that low of a quantity, or what is it that I can get that I can't get someplace else?
Good luck.
Well, I'm gonna just
Start.
introduce something, and then you
Yeah.
can just answer
Yeah.
the question. So just in case someone is not really like related to Riso. Riso was a technology that was invented in Japan in the 70s.
Mhm.
And it was out of the wish of a man that wanted to bring print devices to places where other print devices were not very good, especially like what some people call the third world, like places where like were not very economically developed, or places where the humidity was so bad, like in the tropics, for example, where, you know, like the laser printers doesn't work that well. So he was envisioning like some kind of printer that schools and like people could use to print churches, like places where people had to do like a lot of prints, like let's say exams or like some kind of
Advisories.
newsletters or something like that. And he made this technology that it sometimes, like jokingly, we call it like an in-between technology, because it's like a mimeograph. It's not a photocopier machine, but it was invented later. It's just like something there that had a really specific purpose to lower the printing charge of each copy, but also like to be able to operate in certain places. And then this is how it was used. And then somehow, like with a lot of dynamics, like some designers and artists started to use it, because, you know, a riso has a really nice feeling to it, because everything that you see printed, either digital or offset, is the mix of 4 colors, like cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And when I was studying, I was told at school that if you mix those colors, you can get all the colors in the world. And that is just not true. Like there are like a lot of different ranges of colors that are not, that you cannot get mixing those colors. So whenever you see an image printed in riso, there's something there that just like makes you think, oh my God, like, what is this? Like some people can really verbally say that. Like we get a lot of people at fairs asking if we are showing them an original, or of like what's the media that the artist is using for printing that. And some other people cannot like even think about that, but they're like kind of intrigued of the image. So this was really appealing, also in a scene where we are so used seeing screens, which are not based in cyan, magenta, black, and yellow, but are based in RGB, in red, green, and blue. So now seeing those other colors, and actually like the kind of texture that it gives you, since it doesn't have like chemical fixators, and sometimes you can just see like the pigment over there.
And the
that-
colors combined.
And the colors combine and things like that. It makes it really appealing for some kind of works.
Mhm.
But with this said, what will make
Well, a lot of things, like Eva said, this kind of printing has texture. It is most of the times rich in color. The colors combined because the inks are like translucent. So it gets very well for watercolor, for charcoal, for photographs to look like a little kind of vintage, but also it is also good for film photography. My book was the originals, the files came from film photography, and the grain from these images explode kind of more with the printing process of the risograph. And it also got some other colors like purples, some reds also. And it was all because of riso. Also, it is good for books because you could choose different kind of thickness of papers that you could get into the machine. Also, it is better if you use papers that are not coated. Yeah, so it's better for these papers. And those are kind of decisions that most riso printers tell you when you go to a print shop or risograph.
But it's always a date that you
Yeah.
have with your printer, and then you show them something, and then they put this face and they tell you why you shouldn't, or why you should print that particular thing in riso.
Yeah.
But for example, like as I was saying, as a rule of thumb, if you want to print just one, you would just go
Yeah,
and print it in
digital.
digital. But sometimes you have like really nice watercolors that you want to print, and that would be nice to do it in Riso, but then your printer only have like these 4 colors,
Yeah.
and then you have to always negotiate the outcome. So as a rule of thumb, I would say that if you really want to get what you're seeing in your screen, like you want to get the exact same image that you're seeing
With
in
the
your screen,
resolution.
just don't
digital.
do Riso. But if you're willing to let go and playfully like embrace some happy accidents that can happen and some peculiar little things that you're not going to be able to control, let's go ahead and do Riso.
Yeah. And if you're making a book, so I mean, for example, in Querétaro, it's not so easy to find someone that wants to make you 100 books or something like that. You have to go to a photocopier place or a digital copier place. But a print shop that prints you 100 books, it just starts in 500 to 1,000 books. So you can make or print your book if you are making less than 500. And it is cheaper to print it, for example, with us or with other Riso studio in those cases too, or just go print your own, like buy your own digital machine. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry if we didn't answer the question.
Yeah, because it has many lines in it, but it depends on the kind of person and the kind of work that you want to do.
Well, I think you did answer the question.
Okay.
I mean, this is maybe a question that's impossible, but how do you deal with registration?
You just embrace it.
What do you mean embrace it?
Like you embrace all the mistakes or errors or smooches and things that are gonna happen with this process. You're gonna try to make it perfect, but it is not gonna happen most of the times. It depends on the machine that you have. How new is it? How
Also,
are the parts?
It depends on the file.
How the
also.
files are made, and how careful you are when you're printing. Like the example that we made with my book, when we take a lot of care printing each color and things
But
like that.
you know that it's always gonna happen. And for each Riso printer, there's something that is acceptable and like some misregistration that is not. And that is like the care of the and the joke of the printer that you choose, that some are like have more care than others.
Yeah, some printers have more care
Yeah.
than others.
Well, I mean, Eva, I see you like looking with a loop, at the prints.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm thinking of, like a Xerox that holds the paper itself. You don't have control over that, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, you do have, like, you can move the image when you're printing it.
Mhm.
So we use registration marks, and sometimes you're not able to match them, like they're like all over the place, and you have to trust your gut and say, okay, I'm gonna choose to print this second color in this position, and I'm gonna do it. Like, as I said, there's a lot of negotiation. Like, for example, I took a lot of time like trying to understand my old machine, and I have a theory, like I have a theory that when I'm printing fluor pink, I need to print it like really fast, because if not, it vibrates a lot. But when I'm printing yellow, I need to do it like really slow.
Yeah.
And you start to have like all this mental illness thing with your machine. And you try to do it the best that you can, but sometimes it's really tricky because you're printing, like, for example, 4 colors, and the little misregistrations that you're having in the first 2 are going to show like a lot in the last 2. So yeah, but you have some tools in the machine to kind of move it.
Mhm.
And there's also like some tools that you can do to your files, because you can move. I'm gonna do like this.
Yeah.
This silly thing. Like, okay, you can move the image that you're printing this way or this way, but sometimes the misregistration is this way. So there's like some mathematical how do you say,
Calculations.
calculations that you can do to your files in order to correct them. But you have to keep in mind that setting the master over your drum is a mechanical process, and it's never going to land in the very exact same place.
Yeah.
So it's always, I mean, you have to have a lot of, you have to be able to laugh of yourself. You say
Yeah,
that?
and also sometimes those mistakes are very cool because you can be like checking the mark, the registration marks, but you have to look at the picture that you're printing, like the kind of the work, because for example, if it is like a watercolor or something that has like a lot of lines, drawings, strokes, you can see that the marks are moved, but when you see the work, how it is printing, these little accidents combine the colors in a way that it is just beautiful. So like
Yeah,
Eva said,
that
it's
is true.
negotiation, and you have to look like
That is true. And for example, like me personally, when I'm printing something, it's really useful to understand how images work and how scene works, because when you're printing something and a face appears, like what you need to register is the eyes. And if you register that, the image is gonna work. But if you try to register the registration marks, sometimes the eyes just move like this little thing, and then the whole image falls apart, you know? So you need to be like watching what you're printing. So a lot of people think that you can just push a button and just print a lot of copies, and you can certainly do that, and some images allow for that.
Yeah.
But most of the time, Riso, it's a very time-consuming activity. Yeah.
So, I mean, based on what you've learned, you know, and now that you know how time consuming it is, have your prices changed in terms of what you charge clients? Or, you know, the cost to produce the book as opposed to what you can sell it for, or what you need to sell it for based on the time it's taken you? Has that changed?
This is a really nice question, because I've lately been thinking about this, and I would say that my prices haven't changed that much, but what have changed is like the amount of works that I take. Like there used to be a time where I would print anything that somebody would just ask me to print, because as a print shop, we offer like print services. But right now, I'm very selective, but not in a bad way, you know, but then you start to understand that there are some people that are never going to be okay with Riso, you know, no matter the result that you're gonna give them, even if it's good for you, it's gonna be good for them. So it's a total waste of time and money. But the thing with the prices, it's really tricky, because we in the independent publishing scene, I think we talk about this a lot. I don't know, I mean, at least me and fellow publishers talk about this a lot, and I'm always like being the one that brings up the money thing and the money talk, because for me it's really important for independent publishers to have money and keep doing the things that they want to do it, because if we don't have enough money, we're going to start printing the things that we don't believe in, but they just sell. And so in that regard, so I don't want to sound dramatic, but the thing is that the amount of love and care that I put in prints, like there's no money to pay that, you know? And like if I were to charge what I think that I need to charge, or the hours that I need to charge, I would be selling Risos so expensive that it kind of goes against the whole idea of doing riso, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it has become like a more personal practice, and I get pickier with the works that I do for other people. And when I decide to take some works, I have this way of trying to talk people out of printing in riso, not to dissuade people to print in riso, but for them to understand that, you know, riso got this hype, and like a lot of people want to print in riso. I'm talking more now about Colombia than the scene in the States, but a lot of people wanted to print in riso. They wanted to do this and that, and they couldn't understand that the images that they were seeing about riso in social media were like digitally based, and they were fixed, and they were like so perfect. And some of them were more like an effect,
Mhm.
no, like a riso effect, that they were applied to digital images than the print itself. And yeah, so for me, it has been more like that, not like raising the prices, but like taking less work from others.
Yeah, well, we have started with some very low or cheap prices for printing, mostly because we are interested in making books more than making prints, because I think that uh, Riso has get more hype for printing, for making prints, but we're interested in books. So sometimes when you're selling the master or the negatives for making, when you're making a print, it's just 1 or 2 or 3, but for a book, it could be 50 or I don't know, something like that. So it gets expensive. And we have maintained that for a while, not that expensive, because we want to kind of transform this scene, at first local scene, to become more like a scene, an artist book scene, instead of just making prints a scene or something like that. So that is something that has guided us for some time. And with Riso, and it is cheaper for the printers and also for the clients. And sometimes for us, some things like the paper or the folding or the binding or some other processes that are not just printing are the ones that are more expensive when you're making a book. But this has been something cool, because some people that get near to us, the artists, have started to learn more about the process of making a scene or of making a book. And these artists some came to us just for the printing, and then they get all their own process. And I think that I like that, because it says to me that there is more people like going independent, or like this phrase goes, do it yourself, or publish, self-publish together. Yeah. So, but our prices in the books have raised from the beginning to now. We started very cheap also because we want to sell like a lot of scenes, and have it to be affordable to everyone. But when we went to out into international fairs, we have to raise our prices also because of all the expenses in travel to these places, and also because of the different markets. But some of our prices in Mexico are still the same, but some others have doubled. But I think that they are still affordable. But yeah, I think that the work is something that we not always measure or charge as it has to be, but something that we as a publisher have like a, not as a role, but something that we we do as a common thing is that we work with the artist in the whole process. So we most of the time talk a lot about the book and the edition of it and the materials and everything, and then print it with the artist. And some of the times it becomes like a party, and these artists came with their friends and some snacks, and we are there folding and making the books. Mostly on the times that we are going out to a fair, because we are on the rush to go out on a good deadline to arrive at the fair. So it is like it's also a part of the process of Gold Rain books.
Okay. I think we have time maybe for one more question if anyone has it. Don't be shy. This was really, really informative. Thank you so much.
No,
And
thank
I
you.
look forward to coming to Miriam Gallery and playing around with you. And good luck with everything. And I know that it will be great. And thank you so much for doing this book talk. I think it was really, really informative. So,
No, thank you, Ronnie,
Yeah,
for
thank
giving
you.
us the space to talk about reason. 'Cause
great.
We always need some reason therapy.
Yeah,
And now we know that there's a Rizzo God, just like there's a letterpress God.
yeah,
Yeah.
there is a
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone else, remember that we have another book talk coming up on December 5th. So I hope to see you and let other people that you think might be interested know. And come to the center and see Eva and Oswaldo, and come see the exhibits at the center, and we'll see you around. Thank you. Good night.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
If you're interested in learning Riso, we have some Riso workshops here at the CBA. So just keep tuned.
Yeah, look at the website. There's a listing of classes. Eva is teaching one. When is that, Eva?
So this one starts the 23rd. I think the spots are already gone. But if you were persuaded by this kind of Riso talk and you wanna be one of us, like in this Riso therapy, you can join us and learn everything about Riso and complain about Riso together.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you,
Bye
Renee.
bye.